I would like to introduce you to the next presenter, Robert Woodbury, Professor at School of Interactive Arts and Technology in Simon Fraser University.
Thank you, Judy. I'm presenting something that I think is very practical, and something that I'm going to argue is it's both a new medium for doing cultural DNA work, but it describes a research process to discover a new medium in the face of there being very, very few precedents. So I'm going to ask you to look through, first of all, accept as gospel writ that first phrase. Designers work through alternatives. It's one of the fundamental models. It summarizes one of the fundamental models of how designers work both as a cognitive system and through multiple observation studies. We're familiar with this. As designers, we try multiple things out. Now, I'm going to give you all a test. The test models to within a reasonable degree of caricature what modern computer systems force us as designers to do. I'm going to give you 10 alternatives. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There were 9 there. I want you to take the grid from the 6th, apply it to the 4th, and draw the result right now. I hear a little bit of laughter because, of course, you can't do that. And yet, virtually every system we provide for designers to use imposes that constraint. Michael Terry calls it the single-step document dump. Your task would get a whole lot easier if I did that. Because then you can say, well, there's the 6th, there's the 4th, and I can sketch the fusion of the 2. So, if every single system, and there are tiny, tiny little exceptions to that, forces us to look at one state at a time, how well does that work to support that fundamental fact about how designers work? That's the basis. So that's the basis, the basic motivation of this work. Now, alternatives, it's what designers do, and some computer scientists actually kind of realize that, largely by reporting on literature from design. And we do it at all design stages. The juicy salad, and this turns out to be not apocryphal, the juicy salad actually was designed on a napkin or a placemat in an Italian restaurant. We do it from very early stages to design very detailed product families that are produced in different versions using similar parts. Now, for a long time, our field focused on the generative aspect of this, and I'm certainly was a member and am a member of that community that says, if we're going to enable computation to explore spaces of design alternatives, then we better get the generative mechanisms right. So what follows in the next couple of minutes is blatant self-citation. I'm only citing my own work, but there are many of the people in this room have done first-class work in the area, and lots of other people have too. So this idea has been around for a long time. Come on. Mouse.
It's been around a long time.
It's been around a long time, and the mouse isn't moving.
That's what the mouse is saying.
Yeah, it stays around too. Okay, how do I get it to change the page? Something just froze. Does this take time to get to the 25 minutes? must not like that text. Did you run through it this before you put it up? I think what's follows next, you might have trouble with media file. So you need to launch it again. And we'll do this again. Well, there's a video, so what I'll do, I'll run below the video. We won't show that one, we'll go into this one directly. What I was going to show the result of a normal generative system, but we can invent programming languages for programming grammars. We can subject grammar-based or rule-based systems to heuristic optimization algorithms such as simulated annealing, and we can make those work in multi-part criteria. We can build systems of representation that position the designs in a space of designs by their information content. By the way, if anybody ever wants to try this one, it turns out that the representations you have to build in order to make this work are way too rigid to be effectively used in designs. We can do work in grammar systems, which are fundamental mechanisms for the representations of families of designs using rules. When you extend those into the modern parametric world, though, you encounter something extremely ugly. And that's it. If I try to put the blue shapes into the red shapes, which in this game models are parametric, I'm perfectly able to do. I find that I can put the blue shapes into the red shapes in 48 different ways. If I try to put the red shapes into that blue shape, there's a much more sobering number. It's 1,578 different ways I can put these three red lines into a single shape schema made up, that's a triangle made up of three lines. And so we run into some tractability problems when we start to think about making these things parametric, which is what you want to do given that all published shape grammars are parametric, almost without exception. There are a few very small exceptions, but nobody's ever built a working parametric shape grammar interpreter. So I've concluded that that's good work. It's an enormous amount of fun. I think it has progressed the field. But I wanted to move on to questions about how we interact with spaces of designs. Because we clearly do it all the time when we sketch. We don't really require an explicit generative mechanism to do it. And all of the computer systems that we use force us to look at one design at a time. Now, I've been doing this for a while too. This was a very early single-state document model. It could be, because you could save states so quickly, you could sort of take it from multi-state document model. It was Discover form, where with one very, very simple algorithm, we generate an enormous variety of fractal-like forms. We learned some things about immediacy in Discover form. How immediate the feedback has to be if you want to use a generative system in any kind of live process. Then we looked, another thing we've done is to look at if a designer makes 2 or 3 things, is there a quickly generatable space of plausible other things the designer might have done from those 2 or 3 things? So a designer can create a single model, can create a couple of models, and from those models can generate an entire space. And this is in this example, it's done with a simple Cartesian product of parameters in a parametric modeling system. And then if you look at some of the very old computer-aided design systems and some more recent ones, and some of the visual analytic systems, you realize that the history mechanisms that are created are not strict history. Rather, they're an editable history. An editable history gives you the opportunity to turn your design work into a form of narrative or storytelling about how the design work actually might have happened. But it also gives you the ability to think of these these histories as possibly branching. And we see malleable histories as an interface idea realized from both computational design systems and visual analytics systems. Another idea is if you have multiple designs available to you, and potentially multiple parametric, or a single parametric model with variance, can you, by editing one model, edit multiple designs at the same time? And if I have a recommendation to anybody wanting to try this, don't try to do it here. Don't try to do it by having multiple representations of your data flow model. That creates a very high cognitive burden very, very quickly. You can try to transfer interaction ideas from one domain into another. Try to transfer computational design domains into interacting with text. And we built a system that allowed us to do multiple versions of the same text simultaneously. You have to be very careful in introducing metaphors from one area to another. They get messy and intractable very quickly. So a data flow mechanism in text. Nice idea. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Here's some ideas that do go somewhere. Parallel editing. This is a very, very simple recursive tree. That's all it is. We enable parallel editing of the tree by simply clicking on a node, and you can edit a tree simultaneously. If you group together the trees, then editing one controller edits them all together. You can create new trees. You can have multiple of these little interfaces up. For every existing tree, you can create a snapshot, which puts a zoomed out glyph down here representing that tree, which you can bring back up into the main workspace. And what we found is that people very quickly explore a range of the space of possibilities engendered by this very simple representation. However, there's an awful lot of space devoted to controls there. And there's a rigid ordering on the screen, just the tiling of the alternatives. So one idea, this was done in a 2D tiling program, is to enable the alternatives you create to be free-floating on the screen, to be able to be laid out by automatic algorithm, but most importantly by direct user control, and to have free-floating controllers that, in this case, if they touch an alternative, they edit. So this controller would simultaneously edit all four of those alternatives. So in order for this to work, the controllers have to be able to query the alternatives and say, what in you can I edit? And they have to assemble the controllers who edit just those three parameters. We put this together into several systems. This is, sorry for the music. This is Gemini. Gemini took many of these ideas and enabled them. It was a branch from the single-stage object model system called NodeBox, which is a simple propagation-based parametric modeler. We branched it to enable multiple states. We built in parallel editing, design hysteresis, which is the ability to take a small set of alternatives and generate many more. We use design hysteresis not just on the parameters, but on the model structure as well. And so Gemini is one example of where you can take some of these interaction ideas if you start with and take literally a propagation-based parametric system. This is a system in which the propagation-based parametric system is suppressed underneath it, but it's a Cambridge system by Sanish Coleridge, who recently finished his PhD at SFU. And its main contribution is collection handling. So that with Cambridge, you can very, very quickly make collections of related things, parallel edit them, merge them together as individual designs, and as collections. So out of this, several bespoke systems we made, there's a relatively small number of directives. Clearly, you want to see many alternatives at once. You want to be able to edit them in ad hoc groups. So there's the grouping has to be fast, has to present no barriers to use, or people won't use them. So in our next generation, we said, well, let's try to build one of these systems that isn't bespoke to a single narrow application, but that can potentially be used by anybody using one of the contemporary design systems, which is by and large in architecture now. The young girls in the field are using propagation-based parametric models. So we aim to build a design gallery. I've kind of gone over some of this. The single state document model that we all use, where we're only allowed to look at one element of our work, one state of our work at a time, is a real constraint on problem solving that involves design, involves looking at alternatives. All standard space explorer interfaces focus their interface through a very narrow lens. My paper in the last cultural DNA workshop was about the grammar lens. Now, when you say, I want to build a multi-state document model, you're creating a new task environment. I'll tell you what Simon's Ant is in a minute. But Simon's Ant tells us to expect new forms of interaction in new tasks and task environments. And it had very, very poor predictive power from past task environments. Okay, Simon's Ant is, Ant's path looks complicated. It's simply the task environment, a reflection of the task environment in which the ant finds him or herself. So how did we build a design gallery? We replicated no CAD tool functions. We communicated through parameters, so and we were platform agnostic. We built it in a rapid prototyping environment. So in our gallery system, we can make and see many alternatives. We communicate through the free and output parameters of models and the model as a whole. Propagation-based parametric modelers create very compact models. Users can group their models into ad hoc groups. We're designing new forms of controls, designed for a parallel controller system for alternatives and using that control system, both control alternatives, make new ones and do design hysteresis. Provide some kind of design hysteresis, which is generation of a local space of designs you might have thought of had you spent a few more minutes. Make sure you provide good interactive layout of alternatives. And the natural device for this is large displays. This is our minimal display at 6 HD screens. There's 24 HD screens, which this is one at ETH that we've used a bit. And this is one where we're building right now. It's 8 4K screens, each one's 85 inches. So it's a wall-sized display. And for various reasons, we believe that these are the natural form factors for these large systems. Now what happens? First of all, if you make hysteresis easy, people use it. People make a few designs and they'll generate hundreds from it. And they'll proceed not necessarily from the ones they made, but from new ones that are revealed by applying hysteresis. The nature of design critique changes. We noticed we did a design critique with Smart Geometry with this gallery system. It got way more relaxed. People were no longer defending their ideas. They were saying, what's cool in this design space? It was a remarkable difference. And people started playing around with new forms. So this guy did a design hysteresis that generated 2,000 forms and said, what would happen if I look at them really quickly in sequence? Would that be a potentially useful interface? And we may laugh at doing this, but the gamers have had this interface for 20 years. The armor selection in combat games, the car decoration selection in car games, it uses rapid serial visualization. So, why is this cultural DNA? Work in design proceeds by searching a problem space. That's Simon's terms for designers work with alternatives. And a natural object of inquiry for cultural DNA is a set of objects, not a single object. and if computer scientists install a career line and say, your field has this horrible myopia about single-state dot models, I'll show you it doesn't get anything else, and it disables such work. Multi-state displays are largely unknown, and we cannot know how such interfaces will work by examining existing interfaces. So it's virtually pointless to do a user study, formal user study of a multi-state interface at this point, because we know that it isn't going to be the right one. And the purpose of the research work in this game is to build new tools for cultural DNA work and practice by iterating, prototyping, and doing formative qualitative evaluations of generations of new multi-state interfaces. Okay, I think I didn't run. Right. Okay. So, in summary, an online design gallery system. Thank you.
We have 5 minutes for question and answers.
Yes. You first. 10 minutes is enough. We can rely on it.
Just, yeah, I'm also almost designer, so I would like to ask a question for making design project. If the designer use not computer scientist project, designer, if the designer wants to use this kind of tool, and perhaps unless we cannot make a choice because there are too much alternatives, and then we can compare all different possibilities, but unless it could be more difficult to decide which one is better, or what kind of thing can I decide.
Nagni Shireen's upcoming PhD thesis from SFU says, show that the threshold for the number of things we can put on a screen and that designers make sense of is somewhere between 200 and 1,000. So we can put up an awful lot of alternatives at once. And then what happens is the usual human visual system picks up interest faster than the cognitive system. So we're comfortable that people are going to be able to work with at least 200 simultaneous designs this way. And do meaningful selection of access on that basis. Thanos.
Yeah, very nice. When you go down, you start designing, you have all these alternatives, right? These alternatives, they're always related to the ones, to the single, to whatever you made your choice, and then the parallel ones, do they connect with the ones above, or you always, at every time, you have the new ones coming?
If I understand the question, there's a deep and longer answer to that. And it has to do with the way in which propagation-based parametric models are structured, and objects have identity, which means that in multiple models the identity can be preserved. So we can talk about that one at some depth. That's a deep and good question.
Very nice.
Okay, it's actually the implementation is conceptually unbelievable. This is just JSON files in HTML code. So there is very, very little in the realm of complex representations and algorithms in this.